and hopefully others will be joining in a few minutes. Welcome everybody. It's I can't believe it's session number 6 of Recover and Thrive, the emerging technology speaker series that we dreamed about launching back in March is quickly coming to an end. We only have, after this, we only have 3 more sessions. So we're excited today, though. We're going to focus on today and how lucky we are to be having today's session. For those of you who are new, and we have a lot of new people signed up for this session, I'm Lee McGrath, the Director of Business Retention and Expansion at the Windsor-Essex Economic Development Corporation. As companies work through the new normal brought on by COVID-19, we really wanted to develop a program to support you with skills for success, technology, and community. If you do have any questions for today's session, please be sure to ask them in the Slack channel. We're encouraging everybody to participate in the Slack channel as a form of community development. And if you're new to our series, you will have received an invite to our Emerging Technology Speaker Series Slack workspace from me today or yesterday. I'll double check to make sure there's no other new people that have joined that I haven't sent an email to. That'll happen later today. This channel will allow you to interact with our speakers, share best practices, and to network with other entrepreneurs. So I'm really excited also to welcome Sabrina DeMarco, the Executive Director of the Windsor Small Business Center. And she's here today to introduce our keynote speaker. So thank you, Sabrina, and welcome.
Well, thank you, Lee. It's good to be back. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, who will share her journey to empowerment and provide you with the skills and strategies you need to transform your thinking to positively impact the way in which you lead your business and your career. Jennifer Gibbs, VP Global Chief Data Office of TD Bank and founder and CEO of Jennifer Gibbs Coaching, is an accomplished data and technology executive. Jennifer Gibbs gained incredible experience leading large global teams, managing multi-million-dollar budgets, presenting to C-suite executives, and showing up as the only woman in far too many meetings. Jennifer has been recognized in Forbes Women Defining the 21st Century AI Movement and Corinium's Top 50 Data and Analytics Professionals, USA and Canada. One of her greatest achievements was learning how to go after her dreams while having her own back. This very personal mindset transformation inspired her to become a certified life coach and an entrepreneur. Through her career coaching business, she is thrilled to further pursue her greatest passion, empowering women to continue to dream, achieve, and fully embrace their awesome. Jennifer has an honors Bachelor of Computer Science degree from the University of Windsor, an executive MBA from Ivy Business School, Western University, and a life coach certification from the Life Coach School. She is a proud, family-focused, and nature-obsessed Canadian. Jennifer was born and raised in Windsor, Ontario, where she was taught the importance of working hard, playing hard, and laughing often. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you so much, Sabrina, for that great introduction. Just want to make sure everyone can hear me okay. Perfect. Let me get my screen up here. Okay, there we go. So happy Tuesday, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well today. I'm absolutely thrilled to be with you to talk about power and to share a bit about my story and to share some lessons learned along the way. But first, what I would love to do is to get to know all of you. While I can't see you in person, we can at least share and interact a little bit, and we're going to do that via Slido. And if you were here on previous calls, you may have learned or used Mentimeter with Paul Zakopoulos. Slido is very similar. So I encourage all of you, if you can, to head over to slido.com. You can do it on your phones or on your laptop if you like, and key in the word power. You can also use the QR code and get there directly as well. So I'll give everyone a few minutes to get on over there. Again, it's slido.com with the keyword power. Hopefully everyone is able to do that. I just want to double check that you guys can see my screen right now. Should be on slido.com. All right, I'm going to start the poll and get us going. The first question is, if you can share what your favorite movie or series is that you've watched during the pandemic. I'm not seeing, oh, there we go, great. I'm asking a little bit for selfish reasons because I want to see what your ideas are so I can check them out. I will share with you that my favorite is Schitt's Creek. I just saw somebody else share that. Canadian, if you haven't heard of Schitt's Creek, Canadian actors, Canadian series, amazing characters, crazy clothes. And one of the things I really loved about Schitt's Creek was its demonstration about what being an inclusive community looks like without having to eat. It was just naturally an inclusive community with very different people in it. So I love Schitt's Creek. The Crown, I've also watched. West Wing. Oh, WEEC Thrive series. That sounds interesting. West Wing. Great. Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing, everyone. We're going to go to, and I hope some of you got some ideas out of that. I'm going to go to the next question now that everyone's warmed up. This one's an interesting one. That is, what other words would you use to describe someone who is powerful? What other words would you use to describe someone who is powerful? Confident, leader, authentic, love it. I always find this is a really interesting question because for some people, thinking about a powerful person actually feels kind of icky. There could be some negative connotations to being a person that is powerful, and there could be a lot of very positive connotations: influential, knowledgeable, caring, in control. Love it. Most of what you're sharing, I would say, are kind of positive characteristics. And again, it's just interesting to kind of be aware of what your connection is to the word power and the thought of yourself being a powerful person. And I would just share that often women in particular are a little bit shy about feeling powerful, being powerful, demonstrating power. We're often sort of encouraged to be caring and humble. And so the idea of being powerful and ambitious, depending on how you're raised and some of the messaging that you may have gotten from folks around you, powerful can be something that doesn't feel super comfortable for you. So I love all the sharing and all these different words: engaging, dangerous. Very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that. We're just going to go to the last question. And this one is, what are the 3 most common emotions you experience on a regular basis? Again, I also find this to be a really interesting question because we're often so busy every day getting things done, running around, dealing with the issues of the day-to-day that we don't necessarily take some time and really kind of connect in with how we're feeling, what emotions we're feeling. Concern, joy, discomfort. Thank you everyone for sharing. Keep them coming. Content, frustration, happiness. Oh, lots of happiness, love that. That's why it's really fat in the middle there. It means a lot of people put that in. Heaviness of load, insecurity, anxious, apathy. Thank you so much for sharing, everyone. Oh, lots of frustration. We've got frustration bubbling up, stressed. Thank you so much. I appreciate you kind of checking in with yourselves and getting a sense for how you're feeling and for sharing that with all of us. So that was the interaction. So nothing too difficult. I hope that was okay for everyone. I appreciate getting to know you a little bit better. Go back here to my slides. And we're going to move on here. So why am I asking all of you about your feelings? If you really think about it, Aren't feelings a reason we want anything? I mean, why do we really want the job or the promotion or the car or the house or the family? Isn't it really how we think we will feel when we get those things? Proud, accomplished, loved, joyful. Aren't feelings also why we don't want certain things? Maybe we don't want to have a tough conversation. Maybe we don't want to present at a meeting or pitch to a client or take that next level job because maybe we want to avoid feeling anger or shame or disappointment or anxiety. But what if our feelings are not caused by what we do or not do? What if they are not caused by our circumstances at all? What if our feelings are actually caused by how we are choosing to think about our circumstances? Now, for some of you, this concept might sort of be blowing your mind a little bit. And for others, you might be thinking, yes, I know this already. I've read the books, I've read quotes about it. I was in the latter camp. Theoretically, I understood that your perspective on your circumstance and how you think is critical, but I had no idea how to put this concept into practice. I continued to focus on figuring out how to do things and very little time figuring out how to think on purpose. Now, let me share with you the journey I took to finally figure out how to think on purpose. I've chosen what I believe to be pivotal moments in my life where shifts in my thinking had lasting effects on me, both personally and professionally. I will focus on how I was experiencing those times in my life, the emotions I was feeling at that time. And I encourage you to take some time to reflect on your pivotal moments. How did you experience them? What were you feeling? What were you thinking during that time in your life? And what results did that thinking produce for you? So I'll start with me at 17 years old with this really attractive picture that I think my dad snapped while I was doing my homework. And with my bad posture and my word processor. And I'll share with you that I grew up in a fairly homogeneous environment, I would say. Most of my family and friends were middle class, white, Catholics, born and raised in Windsor. Being different to me was actually fascinating. I was so grateful that I was left-handed because there weren't a lot of other people around me that were left-handed. I was also very smart. I had decided at this time in my life that I wanted to apply to a business program at university. And my computer teacher at the time, who was a woman, asked me one question that changed my thinking and my path. Everyone is going into business. What are you going to do to set yourself apart? So I knew there were very few women in STEM. And because I believed having a different and unique perspective was a superpower, I decided to apply to computer science at the University of Windsor. This fueled in me a lifelong passion to continue to support and embrace diversity and inclusion and to help others embrace their unique, amazing selves. A year later, at 18, my life turned upside down. On a Sunday afternoon, laying on the couch in our front room, watching football, and I will admit I was watching the Detroit Lions because my boyfriend at the time was a fan, not because I was a fan, and that boyfriend is now my husband, and he's still a fan, although I think he has a love-hate relationship with the Lions. But I digress. But at that time in my life, on that Sunday afternoon, I abruptly came to know that my parents were separating. I did not see this coming. I had experienced a very loving and stable family life. So much so that before this moment, I hadn't allowed myself full credit for my achievements. Of course, I was doing well. I didn't really have anything else to worry about. My anger and grief led me to the thought, I will not let this impact my goals. That thought fueled such determination in me that I finished my last year of high school with the highest grades ever, taking home numerous awards and scholarships at my graduation from Catholic Central High School, by the way, if there's any comments out there. This experience taught me unequivocally that I can do hard things. Many years later, I found myself at another pivotal point. I had built a strong career in technology, moving to increasingly senior roles, had traveled to incredible places for work and for pleasure. I got married, I bought a home, and I was a mom to 2 amazing kids. We always had plans, however, to have more children. After trying to get pregnant again for several years without success, fertility treatments and all, I felt defeated and powerless and pretty exhausted. So at 35, I chose to let go of our vision of a larger family. This letting go opened up doors for me to grow in new ways. It gave me the time and mental space to pursue an executive MBA degree from Ivy and to get promoted to an executive level role at work. At 41, I was asked to take a new job at work. It was another executive level role. It was with a great team. It had a challenging mandate. It was also in an area I had experience with before, and I knew I could make a huge impact. In my head, there were so many reasons to be excited about this new job. But in my heart, I was not interested. I was not in it. The fact was, I didn't want to do it. To make matters worse, I had no idea what else I might be interested in doing at the company. This caused me to paint myself into a very small corner. It became a very strong belief that I had no other options at all and just had to suck it up. I spent the next 2 years like my friend in this picture, feeling totally shitty inside with a fake smile plastered on my face. In hindsight, I realized that it took me 2 years to accept the fact that what I really wanted next was not available at the company I was at. It took me 2 years to build up the courage to leave the place I had thrived at for nearly 20 years and to open myself up to a new adventure. At 45 years old, I hit rock bottom, quite literally. It was a rainy November morning. I was running late for my 7 a.m. train to Toronto. And after parking illegally, because the parking lot was full, I was sprinting in my dress suit and my big puffy white jacket. Picture it glowing in the dark. It was because it was dark out at 7 in the morning in November, glowing in the dark, running. And fortunately I had my running shoes on as the train was pulling up. So right as I got near the train, the doors were opening, everyone was waiting to board, and there were quite a lot of people there. It was busy. I slipped and had the most epic face plant into the cement you've ever seen. And somehow I only managed to scrape a few layers of skin off my knee. I think my tights protected me a little bit there too. But mentally, I was a mess. I actually put my winter hood on to cover my face and quietly cried for the entire 1 hour train ride. I was working for a great company that I had joined 2 years prior. I'd just been promoted 6 months earlier. The new job was a welcome challenge. I had wonderfully supportive colleagues. But the thoughts that had plagued me nearly my entire career had come back with renewed strength. And the stakes at my age seemed so much higher. Thoughts that included, you have no idea what you're doing, you aren't doing enough, this is too much. In hindsight, I was actually killing it. I had stepped into a role I'd never done before. I led the team through many hurdles, presented to the board and senior executives at the firm for the first time ever, and passed an intense internal audit, all while recruiting a large number of new team members to replace vacancies. At the time, I didn't see any of that badassery. Everything was filtered through a belief that I wasn't good enough. That train ride after my epic fall was a turning point for me. I knew I needed help. Changing my circumstances was not working. No matter what I was doing, I was taking my same brain and my same thoughts along for the ride. Several Google searches later, I found a life-changing podcast and my coach. With the help of my coach, I experienced my life and career so differently now. It opened up adventures and possibilities that I would otherwise never dreamed of, including an epic and very cold canoe trip and becoming a certified career coach and an entrepreneur in the middle of a pandemic. Of course, I still experience the ups and downs of life and all the emotions that come along with being a human. But instead of trying to act my way to feeling better, I've learned how to think and feel my way through each day. My first question isn't what should I do, but rather how is my thinking impacting my experiences and my results right now? I've stopped treating unwanted emotions as problems to solve, but rather feelings to allow. Most importantly, I'm able to recognize when I'm judging myself harshly and look at those judgmental thoughts with compassion and curiosity, rather than buy into them hook, line, and sinker, as I was doing the day I fell running for the train. This is what empowerment looks and feels like to me. Being willing and able to feel any emotion, bringing awareness to my current thinking and beliefs, and being able to think on purpose to create the results and experiences I want in my life and for the people around me. So let me share with you now some ways to recognize when you're giving your power away and how you can start to take that power back. So the first place that we often give our power away is to our brain. And we do this when we take what it offers us without inquiry or intention. And the first point I'll make about giving our power away to our brain is the notion that you are the boss of your brain. So I actually think of my brain as my personal assistant. Brilliant, an overachiever. It's obsessed with my safety and my survival, and it loves to choose the most efficient and least difficult path possible. Sounds like an amazing assistant, right? However well-intended your brain is, however, it is programmed in a very specific way, and without proper context and without your direction, it could produce results for you that you don't actually want. The second thing I'll point out is that your brain will offer you both facts and thoughts, but mostly it's offering you thoughts. And what is the difference between facts and thoughts, and why is this important? So first of all, facts are neutral and stripped of subjectivity. So for example, I was born in the month of May. I was a student at Catholic Central High School. I have $100 in my bank. I actually have more than that, but that's an example of a very factual statement. Thoughts, however, include subjectivity and adjectives. They represent our perception and interpretation of how things are, and they have the possibility of optionality and movement to them. Why is it important to distinguish between facts and thoughts? Well, first of all, most of us believe our thoughts are actually hard facts, that they are so true. And because they're factual, they're immovable. They're truth and they're immovable, and they just are what is. For example, if you think you're lazy or a terrible speaker, or if you're behind in your work, we think of these things as truths, when in fact they're actually thoughts. They're perceptions of our reality, and they're perceptions of our circumstances. So I'd like to offer you that our thoughts that our brain, our personal assistant, is offering us are actually suggestions for our consideration. And it's actually less interesting to figure out if they're true, and much more powerful to determine if they're helpful for you, and to decide whether those thoughts are serving you and whether you want to keep them or not. You have the ability to choose thoughts that serve you. And by serve you, I mean thoughts that produce feelings and results that you want in your life. And so let me give you a couple of examples of this. In particular, some pretty common unhelpful thoughts that most people have. The first one is, I don't know. Another variation of I don't know is, I have no idea. I'll never figure this out. I don't know. And often what happens is it produces the feeling of confusion. Sometimes it also produces the feeling of anxiety. For everyone, it might be a little bit different, but for most people, especially when you're trying to do something and you're saying, I don't know how to figure this out, I have no idea, it's not actually helpful. Your brain just spins in confusion and spends a lot of mental energy just obsessed with the fact that you don't know something. And so my recommendation for you is to recognize how often you're saying, I don't know. Now, for some things, it might not matter that you say, I don't know. Like my husband said, did you see the score of the Lions game? Or what's the score of the Lions game? I don't know. It really doesn't impact my life because I kind of don't care. So, but if it's something like, you know, I want to figure out how to make 200 grand in my business this year, and my answer is I don't know, that's leaving me stuck. It's preventing me from achieving the results that I want in my life. So my recommendation is to start to recognize when you see those types of thoughts that are causing you to spin in confusion, and a slight shift in thinking that seems really simple, but it can be really powerful, is to say, I'm figuring this out. I'm just figuring this out right now. I'm going to keep figuring this out. And your brain will start to work for you. It will start to figure it out. And it's amazing how it seems so simple, but it actually can be really, really powerful. The next common thought that is generally unhelpful is the belief that I'm so busy. I'm so busy. It makes us feel overwhelmed. And it's like a constant reminder, I'm so busy. Another variation of this is I'm so behind. And again, most of the time that results in us feeling anxiety or overwhelmed in some way. So for me, the way to kind of take your power back around something like these types of statements is to actually get really, really factual. And I ask my clients this a lot when they say they're so busy. I say, what are you actually doing? And put it on paper and look at it and stare at it and get really factual and say, I'm doing this, 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 and this right now. And then the second question I ask them is, why are you doing that? And do you want to be doing those things? And it's amazing that once you force your brain to get really factual, that you start to interpret the way you're spending your time a little bit differently. So that's my tip on taking your power back around that thought. The third thought, I'm not doing it right, often causes anxiety. And I put right in quotes because it's an example of a thought your brain will offer you that's very vague. Another example of this is I should be doing more in quotes. The one that my brain offers me all the time and has been for years is you aren't doing enough. So when you start to get thoughts that have the word right, I'm not doing it right, or I'm not doing enough, that's really a time for you to check in with yourself, because again, it's a very vague statement. I mean, what does it even mean to be doing something right? How do you determine what enough is or not? These are things you actually can explore with yourself and say, at the end of the day, really, it's a decision that you can make. You can actually decide that you are doing enough, and you can believe that, and it probably will serve you better. Same with I'm doing it right. I don't know where we expect to get a certified letter from the universe that we're doing it right. I mean, what's the criteria? The criteria really is the decision that we make about what is right or what isn't right. So those are my suggestions. Watch out for vague words that are part of your thoughts, like right or enough, and really kind of explore them and get really specific and choose to decide or try to decide that in fact what you are doing is enough. And then the last one is I should. And in fact, any thought that has the word should or shouldn't always is a flag for me. I always want to check in and see, is that thought really serving me or not? Often it would cause me to feel guilty. So for example, I should be studying for this test right now, or I shouldn't be eating this giant bag of chips, which I do often eat. But those thoughts end up making you feel guilty, and often they don't result in you changing your behavior. So you're just feeling guilty and feeling anxious and feeling crappy, but it's not actually changing your behavior. In fact, when you say I should do something, more often than not, you end up not doing it. And so my recommendation here again is to just be very aware if your brain is offering you the thought you should. I would also suggest this is also applicable when you're believing somebody else should be doing something, because it's equally not helpful for you to believe someone else should be doing something. But for yourself, I would really reflect on, what do I want to do? I want to is much more powerful than I should. And making a decision about what you want to do. So often I decide that I want to eat the bag of chips, and I eat them and I enjoy them. Sometimes I decide that I want to eat the avocado, or I want to put the work in on this presentation, and that it's important to me, rather than I should put the work in. I'm deciding on purpose that I want to. So language is really, really powerful and impacts you more than you think it might. And so I do encourage you to really be aware of some of these thoughts. There's many others, of course, but I just listed these because they happen to be fairly common. Okay, so those are some tips and tricks on are good for us to be able, that we might be giving our power away to our brain, and ways in which to kind of start to take a little bit more control over your thinking to take that power back. The next thing that we also give our power away is to something that I'm referring to as control. So more specifically, when we use a form of control to resist or avoid our emotions. And this was one of the hardest lessons for me to learn, and one of the things that has most profoundly impacted the way I experience my days. So each of us will have our own form of controlling how we're feeling, or pushing away potentially how we're feeling. And these may change over time, but I've listed examples of some of the more common ones that you see here: Netflix, chocolate, wine. I put sleeping here, which I was just reflecting on the period of my life when my parents separated, and I was feeling some pretty intense emotions at the time. And I slept a lot. Now, I've always had the benefit of being a pretty good sleeper, a very good sleeper, actually, but I would purposefully sleep a lot because I couldn't feel when I was sleeping. So for me, in hindsight, that was actually my form of giving my power away to control. Now, fortunately, I wasn't sleeping so much that I couldn't get the results I wanted in my life, but in hindsight, that was one of my forms of control. The other thing, primarily for me, especially through with respect to my career, was working super hard. So I'd always have to have something to do next. And my sister teases me all the time that I always have to have a project that's happening next. I always have to have something that's going on. And for a long time, part of the reason why that was important to me was that when I wasn't busy, those thoughts that caused me anxiety or caused me a feeling I didn't want to feel would surface. And so instead of feeling those feelings, I would keep myself busy and distracted. So I wanted to kind of give you a bit of an analogy around that, is that the results of avoiding or resisting our feelings are analogous to what happens when you try to push a beach ball into the water. And if any of you have tried to do this before, or if you even just kind of went on top of it trying to push it down, it takes a lot of energy. It's very difficult. And regardless of how long or how hard you try, it eventually pops up. And if you're lucky, it doesn't hit you right in the face. So whether we like it or not, we are all humans. We are going to feel feelings. Some of them we're going to prefer over others. All of them present opportunities for us to understand ourselves more deeply. And I'll give you an interesting example that I recognize in my own self, that it's not just quote unquote negative types of feelings that were hard for me to allow. It was also sometimes positive feelings. Sometimes I wouldn't allow myself to feel joyful in a deep way. Sometimes I wouldn't give myself the time to feel grateful. And so just something to be aware of, because I think we assume that we're going to resist or avoid negative feelings, but sometimes we actually resist or avoid, we don't fully embrace positive feelings as well. So I have a couple of suggestions to help you take your power back from what I'm calling this control, this little place that you put those feelings you don't want to deal with. The first is to recognize that feelings are simply sensations in your body caused by your thoughts. And it's really important for you to pay attention to those sensations and actually describe them. So for me, anxiety is a very common emotion that I feel no matter what's going on. It's because of that pesky thought that comes up about how I'm not doing enough most often. But I really took the time to close my eyes and describe what was happening in my body. And for me, it's like this swirling heaviness in my chest. Sometimes it goes down to my stomach. Sometimes it comes up and it's tightening around my neck. And it's just a really interesting way to create a different relationship with the feeling itself. And I really do encourage you to pay attention, get connected with your body and recognize the sensations and how it feels. Shame feels very different for me, for example, than anxiety. It's a hot, burning redness in my face and it's pulsating. So really encourage you to get connected into your body and pay attention to those sensations. Allow yourself to get curious about them. How does anxiety feel in your body? What about excitement? What about anger? And I will tell you, for the anxiety now, I actually, this sounds really weird, but actually kind of talk to it, like not out loud where people would hear and think I'm really weird. But, you know, I just in my brain say, oh, hello, anxiety. I feel you. You're there. I'm okay. Because the truth is I am okay. The swirling in my chest and the tightness in my neck is not going to kill me. I'm actually okay. I can handle that. So the second thing about taking your power back from control is to understand that by allowing yourself to feel your emotions fully, you're actually reducing your suffering. Because it's often the judgment we place on our emotions, our thoughts about the existence of the feeling that causes us the most suffering. Thoughts like something is terribly wrong. So you feel the sensation of anxiety and your thought is something is terribly wrong and you go into panic mode. That's judgment about what's happening in your body is actually causing you significantly more suffering. Other thoughts that may happen when you feel a certain emotion, I have to fix this. It's stupid to feel this way. I don't have time for this right now. So I'll give you a simple example that many of the women on the call may connect with. Every month, I get anxiety that feels very intense and it lasts for a few days. So when I decide that it's just hormones, and this is what I do every month, oh, that's just hormones, hello anxiety. It's much easier for me to allow the anxiety and to manage it in a way that serves me. If I had decided that every month during this time, it was this huge problem that I had this intense feeling of sensation of anxiety. It's a huge problem that needed to be fixed. I'd be spending all my mental energy getting sucked into trying to fix it. And it would just make my anxiety even more intense and last longer. And so allowing your emotions to be there significantly reduces your suffering. Okay. Now, with that, my friends, I understand that every session there is a challenge. And so this one is no different. And my challenge to all of you is to start to take power from your brain with what I call a daily awareness practice. And it starts by taking the time, kind of like we did at the beginning of this call, to just check in with yourself and name the feeling you're feeling. It could be joy, it could be anxiety, it could be fear, but just sit in, recognize the sensation, get clued into your body and name the feeling. And then sit and say, what is going through my head? There's always a thought that is triggering that sensation. And sometimes it's really obvious. Like sometimes you know for sure what you're thinking and you know why that's causing you. Maybe you're feeling anger and the thought is that person is an idiot. Connect it to what the thought is. Sometimes it's more subtle. Like I said, for me, if I'm feeling anxiety, at the end, like the real thought that's sort of triggering is often I'm not doing enough. And it's just a default thought my brain loves to provide for me. So name the feeling, find the thought, take the time to really try and find the thought. Just don't say there's no thought there. There's definitely a thought there, but you just haven't connected to it yet. And the third thing is to really get curious. So don't get judgmental about it, but allow yourself to be curious and ask yourself these three questions. Is this thought absolutely true? And I would guarantee that if it's not a fact, which it probably isn't, it's probably not something that could be proven and explained and agreed upon by everyone. It's an interpretation and a perspective that you have. Is this thought absolutely true? The second one is this thought helpful? Which is the more powerful question to ask yourself. Even if you decide that the thought is true, it's really important for you to know whether it's helpful or not. And the third one is to really be curious about why you're choosing to think it. And do you like the reasons why you're choosing to think it? I do recommend you write this down because it forces you to pay attention. But honestly, this could take you 2 minutes a day. It could take you longer if you want to really explore it a little bit more closely. But this is a really easy daily practice that I do a few times a day just to check in with myself and help me build up that awareness that will eventually lead to being able to manage your thoughts and feelings a little bit more strongly. The last challenge I will give you, or suggestion I'll say, is to adopt a go-to thought when things get hard. I think everyone should have a go-to thought that they believe that they can think about when things get hard, because things will get hard and things are hard in life. And I'll share with you a few of my go-to thoughts. I would love for you to share your go-to thought that maybe you already use or that you've come up with that you think will work for you in the Slack. I have a few go-to thoughts when things get hard. It depends on what it is that's happening at the time, but one of them is, you've got this. And if I can't drum that up, I've got a beautiful community of friends and family that can help remind me that I've got this. So you've got this. The other one is, I can do hard things. I can do hard things. Like, stop trying to figure out why it's hard and just focus on the fact that you can do hard things. Whatever it is, you can do hard things. And the third one I'll offer you, which has been one of the most powerful thoughts that I've been using when things get hard, is, I may not know why yet, but this is exactly where I need to be right now. And if I reflect on the journey that I shared with you, the 2 years I spent at that company in misery, I would not change a day of that. I was exactly where I needed to be at that time in my life. And when I reflect back on the personal growth and my ability to share that with others and share the learning from it, I was exactly where I needed to be at that time. I just didn't know why. And so I offer that all to you. I wish you all well. I have just some books and podcasts. The first podcast with the swear word in it is the one that I mentioned that I found when I was 45 years old. And Carl Lowenthal is the life coach that I worked with at the time. She's phenomenal. So I've included that there. A few great books that give you just a different way of thinking about things and a different way of thinking about life. So thank you all for the opportunity to share with you and to connect with all of you. And I'll send it back to you, Lee.
Okay, wow, Jennifer, thank you so much for your generosity of spirit in sharing all your tips and tricks today. I have to tell you that I really listened with intent to your talk today, and certainly relate to the years of not feeling good enough. But I really liked how you wrapped it up with some tips to help us get unstuck from where we're at. And I always find that sometimes I get stuck. One of the things that I always say to myself is, you come from good stock and you can do this. I always say that. You know, we often sell ourselves short, and I think that this was a really good reminder today of how we do that, and some ways to get out of it. So just so everybody knows, we will make sure to post the list that Jennifer provided of the podcasts and the books on the Slack channel. And I do want to hear from you. What's your go-to? How do you talk yourself out of not being good enough and take back your power? One of the reminders I will tell you is that you will receive an invite to our next virtual coffee break with coach and leadership strategist Laura Creston, who's going to help you walk through some of these challenges that you've been assigned from the speakers. And so that is December 4th at 11:30 a.m. And I hope you'll join us for that. The last one we had was really well attended, and you break out into smaller groups, and it really gives you a chance to sort of reflect on some of the content that we've learned from the speakers. Also, make sure that you're watching for the registration link. It's going to be in the Slack channel for sessions 7 and 8. I can't believe I'm saying this. It's going to be December 4th. How is that possible? No, December 3rd, sorry, for the next session. December 4th is the coffee hour. Two great speakers coming up: Kate Broddick, CEO of Women 2.0 and the founding partner of the W Fund, a VC fund that supports women startups. And then Stephanie Teruzzo. She's going to be offering some transformable information for you. She's a tech geek across cloud, AI, and emerging technologies. So she's going to be bringing us some new technology information. Again, again, Jennifer, we are so grateful that you were able to join us today. It was always good to have a hometown speaker, and we will look forward to interacting with you again in the future. Thank you, everybody, for joining. For those of you who are new, drop us a line in the Slack channel if you have any questions. You have my email, and be sure to reach out. And I hope everybody has an amazing day. I want to say that I want to eat those chips later today, so I'm going to just mark that up for my intended I want to for today. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day.